The day the alien commander arrived at Earth's most prestigious military academy, there was an air of curiosity among the students and faculty alike. They had heard rumors of his visit, a distinguished officer from the Galactic Empire who had conquered countless worlds, and now, he was coming to observe humanity's military training. To them, this was a moment of pride and a chance to show that Earth had earned its place in the galactic order. But none of them could anticipate just how much his visit would shake the very foundation of their understanding of warfare. The alien commander, Varric Shaw, had heard much about humanity's martial prowess. Reports had spoken of their resilience, their unexpected victories against far more advanced enemies, and their strange, unpredictable tactics. But when he arrived at the academy, what he saw took him entirely off guard. At first, the commander stood in the background, observing the students in their rigorous drills. He was a tall, imposing figure, his skin a deep, slate gray, with ridged patterns that seemed to shimmer as he moved. His eyes, a piercing yellow, scanned the trainees with clinical precision, taking in every detail of their movements. His race, the Veil, had fought wars for millennia, relying on calculated strategy, heavy firepower, and their advanced technology. But this, what they were witnessing on Earth, was something entirely different. In the first demonstration, a group of cadets began a live combat exercise. The scenario was designed to simulate an urban warfare environment, with students tasked with securing a building from a group of opponents. To Varric's astonishment, the humans didn't proceed with the usual tactical formations that most militaries would use. They didn't wait for orders from their superiors. They didn't coordinate with precise movements. Instead, they scattered, using the environment around them in a way that was completely chaotic and unpredictable. Some took cover behind walls, while others moved through windows or crawled under debris. It was chaos, but it was effective. Varric's initial reaction was one of confusion. This wasn't how battles were fought. There was no rhyme or reason, no order to it. Yet, to his shock, the humans were winning. Their enemies, well-trained soldiers from allied species, were quickly outmaneuvered and overwhelmed. The humans used everything, every crack in the wall, every piece of furniture, as a weapon. One cadet even disarmed an opponent with nothing but a makeshift spear crafted from a broken chair leg. It was sloppy, haphazard, and utterly human. "This is how they fight?" Varric muttered under his breath, his voice tinged with disbelief. He turned to the academy's commandant, who was standing beside him, waiting for his reaction. "Impressive, isn't it?" the commandant said with a smile. "We believe in adaptability above all else. Human soldiers are known for thinking outside the box, often in ways our enemies don't expect." Varric's mind was racing. His species had always relied on order, on precision, and on overwhelming force. But here, in front of him, was an enemy who fought with an almost reckless abandon, and they were winning. The second exercise was even more bewildering. This time, a team of human cadets was tasked with securing a downed alien aircraft. As soon as the exercise began, the cadets did something Varric found truly puzzling. They immediately began scavenging parts from the wreckage of the downed ship. Instead of simply securing the perimeter and preparing for a firefight, they had begun to disassemble the ship. The students worked quickly, repurposing alien technology into rudimentary traps and makeshift weapons. Within minutes, they had turned the wreckage into a defensive stronghold, capable of withstanding the next wave of attacks. "Are they building something?" Varric asked incredulously, his yellow eyes narrowing in confusion. "Adaptation is key," the commandant explained. "They can use what they find to create new solutions on the fly. Our enemies are usually caught off guard by this ability." Varric watched as one cadet, a young woman with short black hair, took the power core from the downed ship and began rewiring it, her hands moving with incredible speed and precision. In just under 20 minutes, the makeshift bomb she created was primed and ready. When the alien attackers arrived, they were met not by the expected human defenses, but by an explosion that sent them running. The cadets had managed to neutralize the threat with nothing but their ingenuity and the scraps of an alien ship. Varric was stunned. He had seen battles fought with the finest weapons and technology, but he had never witnessed a species improvise in such a way. It wasn't just the strength of the humans, it was their mind. Their ability to think on their feet, to overcome impossible odds with whatever they had at their disposal, was a sight to behold. As the day went on, Varric's disbelief turned into something deeper, unease. The more he saw, the more he realized that the humans' unpredictable nature could be the key to their survival. Their resourcefulness was unlike anything he had encountered before. It was messy, chaotic, and not at all what he had been trained to expect, but it was effective. The day ended with Varric feeling a sense of respect that he had not anticipated. But it was a respect mixed with fear. If humanity could wield such raw, unrefined power, what could they do when properly trained and united? And for the first time in his life, Varric began to wonder, was it possible that the greatest threat to his people was not their superior technology, or their ancient, battle-hardened warriors, but the unpredictable chaos of humanity itself? Varric's unease grew as he spent more time observing humanity's unique approach to warfare. The exercises continued, each one more bizarre and unsettling than the last. It was clear that these humans were not bound by the same rules or expectations that governed the tactics of other galactic civilizations. They didn't rely solely on advanced technology or rigid battle plans. They fought with creativity, cunning, and an almost reckless disregard for convention. The next exercise involved a simulated alien invasion of a human city. Varric had seen similar drills countless times on other planets, but this one was different. As the simulation began, he watched as the humans sprang into action. Instead of hiding behind barricades or waiting for their adversaries to make the first move, the human cadets took to the streets, engaging in guerrilla warfare tactics. They used their knowledge of the terrain to outmaneuver the enemy, setting traps, creating diversions, and blending into the environment like phantoms. They attacked when the enemy least expected it, only to disappear into the shadows before the aliens could retaliate. Varric was bewildered. The humans didn't even fight like soldiers. They fought like predators, exploiting every advantage, no matter how small. They didn't wait for orders from their commanders, they acted on their own, improvising on the fly. In one particularly shocking moment, a cadet used a broken street lamp to trap an alien invader, somehow managing to loop the wire around the creature's neck and neutralize it in a matter of seconds. These humans, they're not like anything I've ever seen, Varric muttered under his breath, still trying to process what he was witnessing. The commandant, observing his reaction, nodded solemnly. They adapt quickly. It's in their nature. When pushed to the limit, they come up with solutions that no one expects, even if it means taking risks. They do not wait for a plan to work perfectly, they make it work. Varric's mind raced. He had studied the tactics of countless civilizations, each one relying on carefully orchestrated strategies and overwhelming firepower. But here, the humans relied on unpredictability, on using the environment and any available resources to gain the upper hand. It was chaotic, yes, but it was also effective. As the day wore on, Varric watched the humans in action with a growing sense of wariness. The cadets did not seem to tire, even as they faced wave after wave of simulated attackers. They had an energy, a fire, that seemed to fuel them through the harshest conditions. And it wasn't just their resourcefulness that impressed him. It was their willingness to fight for something greater than themselves. For them, the fight was personal. By the end of the day, the alien commander found himself standing at the edge of the training grounds, watching the cadets celebrate their victory. They laughed and joked with one another, but there was a distinct sense of camaraderie, of unity. Despite their differences, these humans shared a bond that transcended their individual lives. It was this bond that made them formidable, Varric realized. We can't even begin to understand them, Varric muttered, his voice heavy with disbelief. They don't follow the same rules, the same logic. They fight with a kind of rage. But it's not blind. It's a controlled chaos, a weapon of its own. The commandant smiled slightly, his eyes gleaming with pride. Yes, that's exactly it. Humanity's strength doesn't come from technology or brute force alone. It comes from their will to survive, to overcome. And once you understand that, you'll see why they've survived so many times against overwhelming odds. Varric looked out across the training field, his mind grappling with the implications of what he had just witnessed. The humans, once considered weak and primitive, had shown him that they were far more than that. They had developed a unique brand of warfare that could adapt to any situation, a kind of unpredictability that made them a danger to anyone who underestimated them. And he had underestimated them. As he walked away from the training field, Varric couldn't shake the feeling that he had just witnessed the future of warfare, a future where rigid strategies and overwhelming firepower were no longer the deciding factors. It would be the humans' creativity, their ability to adapt and improvise, that would define the battles to come. The fear began to settle in as Varric realized just how dangerous humanity could be. He had thought the galaxy was full of civilizations with their own unique strengths, each one vying for dominance. But the humans were different. They didn't rely on the same rules that everyone else did. They had their own set of weapons, their own ways of thinking, and their willingness to fight for what they believed in. It was this unyielding spirit that would make them a force to be reckoned with in the years to come. The alien commander's thoughts were interrupted by the sound of footsteps behind him. Turning, he saw the commandant approaching, his face serious now. "Do you still think we've made a mistake by bringing them into the galactic fold?" the commandant asked, his voice heavy with meaning. Varric met his gaze, the weight of the question pressing down on him. For a moment, he said nothing. Then, slowly, he shook his head. "No. I've seen enough to know that humanity will not just survive. They will thrive. And that, perhaps, is the most dangerous thing of all." With that, Varric turned and walked away, his thoughts a whirlwind of uncertainty. The universe had underestimated humanity for far too long. And now, they would learn the consequences of that mistake. The tension in the air was palpable. Varric's earlier disbelief had morphed into something darker, a deep sense of unease. He had spent years studying the strategies of the galaxy's most powerful civilizations, observing their methods of warfare, their advanced technologies, and their precise, calculated approaches. Yet here he was, standing on Earth, confronted by an unpredictable force that had no clear rules. Humanity's chaotic and unconventional methods were becoming an enigma he couldn't solve, and the implications of their methods were beginning to weigh heavily on him. The next training exercise was set to be the most challenging yet. The cadets were about to face the most dangerous alien creatures humanity had encountered in the last century, the Theri predators. These savage creatures were known for their incredible strength and their ability to track and hunt down their prey with terrifying precision. The training exercise had been designed to test the cadets' ability to survive against overwhelming odds. Varric was at the edge of the training field again, observing through a series of holographic screens. The Theri predators were released into the field, their monstrous forms moving with grace and brutality, their red eyes glowing with hunger. The humans were given minimal gear, only small handheld weapons, a few traps, and their own wits. This, Varric thought, was where the cadets would finally be exposed as unprepared. How could a human, with their fragile bodies and limited weapons, possibly survive against such ferocity? The cadets quickly scattered as the predators charged, their sharp claws raking the ground beneath them. But once again, Varric found himself astonished. Rather than trying to fight head-on, the humans split into teams, each one relying on their knowledge of the terrain to stay one step ahead of the predators. They didn't stay in one place. They moved swiftly, hiding in the foliage, using every resource at their disposal. One cadet, a young man named Ryan, darted behind a rock formation, his breath heavy with adrenaline. Varric watched as he placed a series of sound-producing devices on the ground, leading the predators into a trap. The Theri, confused by the sudden cacophony, began to scatter, only to find themselves ensnared by a network of energy fields that had been cleverly concealed by another group of cadets. The predators thrashed, but it was too late. The humans had outsmarted them. Varric was stunned. These humans were no longer merely reacting to the situation. They were anticipating it. They were taking calculated risks, using their environment and their technology in ways that no one had predicted. They were forcing the predators to play by their rules, not the other way around. "This is madness," Varric muttered under his breath, not believing what he was seeing. The Theri were no mere beasts to be defeated with such simple traps and tricks. And yet, the humans had done it. Not only had they survived, but they had turned the tables, using the predator's own instincts against them. It was a level of strategy that even Varric, a seasoned veteran, had never seen before. The commandant stood beside him, smiling knowingly. They're not afraid of the challenge. They never back down. They adapt, sometimes even faster than the creatures they face. Varric shook his head, still processing the sight before him. They shouldn't be able to do this. They should be outmatched, outgunned, overpowered. The commandant's expression softened, almost as if he had expected this reaction. That's where you're wrong. The humans have something no one else has, a refusal to give up, no matter what. They've survived because they've always found a way when there seemed to be none. That's what makes them so dangerous. Not their technology, not their power, but their relentless will. Varric was quiet for a long time, watching as the cadets finally captured the last of the Theri predators, their bodies bruised but their spirits unbroken. The humans had completed the task with minimal casualties. The battle had been brutal, but their determination had carried them through. The feeling that had started as unease was now something deeper, fear. The humans were unpredictable, yes, but they were also formidable in a way that no other species he had encountered was. And with every victory, they were proving that their chaotic methods were not weaknesses, they were strengths. Varric's thoughts were interrupted as the commandant turned to him. Are you ready to admit it yet? Humanity is capable of things we can't even fathom. Varric's yellow eyes narrowed, his thoughts swirling. I see it now. They are not a threat because of what they can do with their weapons. They are a threat because they can think their way out of anything. They will always find a way to win. The realization hit him like a force he couldn't deflect. The humans were not to be underestimated, not now, and not ever. They had no need for overwhelming power or precision warfare. They had something far more dangerous, a mind that could adapt, improvise, and overcome any challenge. And that, Varric now understood, was the true power of humanity. As the training session came to an end, Varric stood silently for a moment, reflecting on what he had just witnessed. The human students were already gathering, preparing for the next challenge, as though they had just completed another ordinary task. To them, the battle had been won, but the war was never truly over. And that, in its own way, was humanity's greatest strength. The following day, Varric found himself grappling with the reality that humanity was more than just a species that survived. They were something different entirely, something the galaxy had not anticipated. He had come here to observe a young species, to judge whether humanity would be an asset to the galactic community, or simply another footnote in the history of countless races. What he had witnessed thus far had made him reconsider everything he thought he knew about warfare and the art of survival. As he walked through the academy's main hall, the hum of the students' voices filled the air. Their expressions were light, their laughter infectious as they prepared for another exercise. But behind their jovial exteriors, Varric knew there was an unspoken edge, a seriousness, a raw intensity, that lay just beneath the surface. This was a species that had been shaped by hardship, a species that didn't wait for things to get better, they made their own luck. Humanity had faced destruction and defeat, but they always rose, always came back stronger. Later that day, Varric was shown another simulation, a mock assault on a human base, this time pitting them against the Galvan Consortium, a rival faction known for their technologically advanced weaponry and elite combat training. The aliens, towering and heavily armored, were formidable opponents, but humanity's unpredictability had proved to be its greatest asset. The humans, with no overwhelming firepower or advanced technology, once again set traps, used their environment, and coordinated in ways that completely disrupted the consortium's flawless strategies. This time, however, they added a new level of audacity. A team of cadets lured the consortium soldiers into a false stronghold, where they then set off a series of explosions, causing a chain reaction that incapacitated the entire enemy force. The entire operation took less than 10 minutes. Varric could not believe what he had just witnessed. The Galvan soldiers, with their superior strength and technology, had been outsmarted by mere human ingenuity. The victory wasn't achieved through better equipment or firepower. It was achieved through a relentless spirit, a refusal to accept defeat, and an understanding that a chaotic battlefield was one they could control, despite their limited resources. It was the very unpredictability that had driven Varric mad over the last few days, an element of warfare he simply couldn't quantify. For the first time since arriving, Varric felt a deep respect for the humans that bordered on awe. He had witnessed countless battles between highly advanced species, each using their unique strengths to overwhelm their enemies. Yet the humans had shown him something he hadn't anticipated. They didn't rely on traditional military tactics, they created their own. After the simulation ended, Varric stood in silence, reflecting on what had just transpired. The Commandant joined him, his expression serious. "What do you think of humanity now?" he asked, as if he had known Varric's doubts all along. Varric turned, meeting the Commandant's gaze. "I see now that humanity is not a species we can just dismiss. They've mastered the art of war in a way no other race has. It's not through strength or technology, but through adaptability and sheer will. They will always find a way, even against the most overwhelming odds. And that is what makes them dangerous." The Commandant nodded, his eyes gleaming with quiet pride. "That's exactly why they've survived. It's why they thrive even when faced with extinction. They will always push back. And no matter how powerful their enemies may be, the one thing you cannot underestimate is their ability to improvise." As the conversation ended, Varric looked out across the training grounds, where the humans were already preparing for their next challenge. They were relentless in their pursuit of excellence, constantly refining their strategies, constantly evolving. And Varric knew that, in time, they would become a force to be reckoned with, not because of their technology or power, but because of the unshakable spirit that drove them forward. The final lesson had become clear: humanity wasn't just a survivor. It was a force that could reshape the future of the galaxy. The question was no longer whether humanity could stand against the galaxy's most powerful civilizations. The question was, could the galaxy stand against humanity? Varric left the academy that day, not with the certainty he had come with, but with a new understanding. The universe had underestimated humanity, and for that mistake, it would pay a steep price. The humans were not only capable of survival, they were capable of winning. And now, Varric knew, humanity would never be underestimated again.